What is going on, Junior Youth? My name is Colin, and we are on our third week of our series called Good to Know. And in this series, we have dove into the topic of wisdom. I don't know about you, but for me, I would love to grow in my life when it comes to wisdom. There are plenty of places that we can go to get good advice. What we've discussed in this series, however, is that when it comes to attaining wisdom in our lives, the best place to find wisdom is from God Himself. When we look at the scriptures, we believe that it's God's authoritative word and that through the scriptures, God has revealed Himself and also gives us instruction on wise living. So today, we're going to be discussing this idea of friendship and what the Bible actually has to say about how we should go about making friends. So just by a show of hands, wherever you are watching this, how many of you think having good friends is important? All right, I don't see you, but I'm going to assume that most of us would say yes. You know, my dad growing up, he used to always tell me, show me your friends and I will show you your future. What he was basically saying is that the friends that we end up with in our lives have a great impact on the people that we become and the direction that our lives end up going in. Here's what the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Who we choose to be our friends is really, really important. Over here, you can see on my left, these are some of my friends from elementary school. How many of you could guess which guy I am in this photo? You could take a moment. Yes, this is me over here with my gym shirt. As you can tell, I didn't quite start going to the gym yet. But you know, I've had many different friends growing up. And from myself, I've come to learn that who you choose to be your friends is very important. If you remember from a couple weeks ago, we talked about the idea of wisdom and making decisions. Well, I remember when I was a teenager, based on the group of friends that I had, we actually made some pretty poor decisions. I mean, really dumb ones that you should never repeat. I remember when I was about 15 years old, I was hanging out with a group of friends. We were going to junior high together. And the thing about us is that we love to pull pranks. Like we love to just cause a scene, do really dumb stuff to just, cause a bit of a riot. And when we were 15, I remember my friends and I thought it'd be funny to egg one of the city buses that used to drive by my friend's house every single day. To be honest, I can't remember how we thought of it, but we thought it'd be really funny to go to the grocery store, go get some eggs, and decide to whip the bus. So we went to the store, got the eggs, went to the bus stop, and we were waiting, right? And there was me on the video, and I had this recorded. And I remember just waiting for the bus to get there. And then all of a sudden, you can hear the hum of the bus. The bus was on its way. It was getting closer. And then all of a sudden, my friends and I, we're hanging out, getting ready for this moment. 3, 2, 1. We started whipping eggs at the side of this bus. And I remember, the eggs were hitting the side of the bus, and we just thought it was the funniest thing ever. We just, it was really dumb, but we thought it was super funny. So we're like, hey, you know what? We need to get some more eggs. Let's do this again tomorrow. So then the bus came, threw at least a whole carton of eggs at this bus. And we just thought it was so funny. And then we decided we should get even more eggs. So we decided to go again the next day to the grocery store and get some more eggs. So then on the third day, we decided, hey, let's hide and let's get ready for this bus. So all of a sudden we heard the bus coming. The bus was getting closer, and we're getting ready with our eggs, right? And we're getting ready to launch. And then all of a sudden the bus, it rolls up, and then the bus stops in front of us. And all of a sudden, the doors open, and this really big, angry, sweaty man started running out the bus. The bus driver was after us, right? So he's booking after us, and we just freak out. We drop the eggs. We run into the forest. So we're running through the forest. We're trying to find a place to hide. And then we're all hiding in different spots throughout the forest. And all of a sudden, we could just hear him running up, right? And this guy's just super angry, out of breath, sweaty, just wondering where we are. And ends up, the guy turns around because he couldn't end up finding us. He goes back to the bus and drives away. We all start laughing, and we just think this is the funniest thing ever. So then we start walking out, and we're thinking hey, we got to get back, and we got to do this again tomorrow, right? So then we're getting ready to go. We walk past the school that was right by the bus stop. All of a sudden, whoop, whoop, cop cars pull up. We were busted. Long story short, we got into some trouble. We had to write an apology letter to the bus driver. But here's the point. The friends that we choose to surround ourselves with are very important. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I want you to gather a few people around you and talk about this question. Or if you're watching this on your own, think about it and share your thoughts with somebody else later. Who is the first friend that you made and how did you become friends? Over the course of my life, I've had several different friends. Some I was only friends with for a while, maybe during a time where we had the same classes together, or maybe friends that I had met at summer camp or during swimming lessons. But there are only a few friends that I've had that have actually lasted a lifetime. I was always under the impression, though, that growing up, that friendships had to last forever. I always thought that if someone was a true friend, that we would always be in each other's lives. My stepmom, growing up, she always used to tell me this saying, and it really stuck with me. And it's this idea that friends are in our life for a reason. Some might only be for a season, and likely only a few will actually last a lifetime. The truth about friendship is that usually they are based around common interests, goals, or common beliefs. It's not so much that you make friendships, but rather discover friendships. There's this quote by C.S. Lewis that says this: friendship is born at a moment when one man says to another, "What, you too? I thought no one else but myself." The point of this quote is this: friendships aren't something that are made, but they're something that we discover. It could be found in things like going to school, or being in the same class, or being on the same sports teams, playing the same video games, or even when you go to the gym. I really enjoy working out at the gym. Like, it's funny, people assume that since that's the case, that maybe I'm athletic or that I'm really good at sports. And trust me, I'm probably one of the least coordinated people out there. I can pick stuff up and I could put it down, but that's about it. There was this one day where I was talking to this guy at the gym that worked at the front desk, and we were chatting, and he asked what I did for work. So I told him that I worked at this place called Village Church. And he was like, "Wait, you're a Christian?" You know, I was kind of thrown off the fact that he was surprised about this, but I was like, "Yeah, I am. Are you?" And he was like, "Yeah, so am I." So all of a sudden we realized that we had something else in common. So we started talking, and he shared with me that there were a few other Christians that actually worked out at our same gym. And we started to connect with those guys, and then from that point, friendship started to form. And we decided, actually as friends, that it was actually a perfect opportunity to share about Jesus with others at the gym. So long story short, we ran this thing called Alpha, which is basically a program where people who are exploring Christianity could come and ask questions about life and faith and about who Jesus was. And through this, many people at the gym got to hear about Jesus, and we've seen God do amazing stuff in their lives. The point that I want to share is this: friendships aren't something that are made, but they're often things that are discovered. So when it comes to friendships, there are just a few truths about friendship that the Bible speaks of that we will go over together. When we discover friendships in our lives, how do we actually go about keeping those friendships? Well, the first way is this: consistency. It says in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17, it says this: "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity." You know, when we choose to engage in friendships, God calls us to love our friends even when things get tough, not just when things are convenient. You know, some of the best friends that I've had were the ones that were there during some of the most difficult times in my life. You know, times when I got bullied at school, or like I've mentioned before, when my parents were going through the divorce, or when I was genuinely going through some difficult time in my life. When we choose to engage in friendships, it's important not just to show up and care when things are going well or fun or exciting, but when things are tough and when there might even be conflict in the friendship. Now remember, like I mentioned before, not all friends that we have in our lives are meant to be forever friends. Some friends that we have are only meant to be for a season. However, when it comes to the friends that we have in our current season of life, it's important to show up and to care for each other well, even in the midst of the good and the bad. The second truth about friendship is this: candor. And this is what it says in Proverbs chapter 27, verse 6. "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." Now you might be wondering, what on earth does that mean? Well, here's the point. A real friend will tell the other friend the truth, even when it hurts. When people aren't willing to call you on your stuff, maybe the sin that you have in your life, the mistakes that you're making, or the dumb decisions that you're making, it can be a sign that they don't actually truly care about your well-being. You know, growing up before following Jesus, I was making some radically dumb decisions in my life. Like, I mean, really dumb. I was hanging out with a rough crowd. I was making decisions that not only hurt me, but also hurt those that were around me. And some of my friends were actually willing to call me out on it. They told me to stop being dumb, to being willing to, they were willing to challenge me on some of those choices. And I came to realize that those friends that were willing to approach me on those things actually cared about me. They actually had my best interests in mind, and they were willing to bring about correction, although that it hurt in the moment. To be honest, it really did suck, but it was actually for my benefit. And then the third truth about friendship is this: counsel. And 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11, it says this: "Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." Friends should be there to build each other up. Joking around and being goofballs can be good for a time. However, the sign of a true friend is when they're able to take time to build into you, to use their words to encourage you, and to be someone that is there to cheer you on. I have seen so many of you do this so well at Village Youth. There have been times where I've seen some of you coming to youth maybe after a hard day at school, or going through something at home, or going through something that's been really difficult. And I love seeing those moments where you take time to encourage each other and to build each other up, and to speak words that bring life to each other. A question that I have for you to think about is this: when was the last time that you encouraged a friend around you? I want to challenge you in this moment, as soon as this video is done, find one friend or think of one friend to call, to text, and send something to encourage them. Just even speak an encouraging word to them. If we want the best example of a friend that we can have in our lives, that friend would ultimately be Jesus. When we look at the life of Jesus, he embodied friendship, the best out of anyone. He showed consistency in his love. Even when he knew that he'd be betrayed and abandoned, Jesus never withdrew or withheld his love for his friends. Jesus always spoke the truth. Since Jesus himself embodies perfect love, he always spoke the truth and always said what needed to be heard. And Jesus always encouraged. Not only did Jesus speak the truth, but he also spoke grace. He showed forgiveness and kindness, and he spoke new identities over people who had messed up and were broken. The beautiful truth about Jesus with us in our lives is that he invites us into a friendship with him, to understand him personally, to get to know him, to know the truth of who he is, and to be the Lord and the ruler of our lives. Jesus is not only the best friend that we can ever have, but he's actually our forever friend. What we're going to do right now is we're going to dive deeper into this conversation about friendship in our small groups. But if you're watching this on your own, I'd encourage you to think about the small group questions, think about your responses to them, and then talk about them later to someone that you trust. But hey, Junior Youth, we are so glad that you could join us. We'll see you next week at Junior Youth. Know that you're so loved, and we'll see you again soon.